Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to take a look at Viper on Breeze today. So I'm going to show you most of what I use and kind of explain the positives and negatives of every setup, lineups, etc. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So starting off with defense, this is my default setup. This is the setup I use at the start of pretty much every game. So you're gonna wanna go to the ladder corner, and then you can use this little space between the bricks to line yourself on, but the goal is just to cut off so that it creates this little pocket on ladder that also cuts off B main in both the first choke as well as the choke to get to the orb. So this wall is really nice because it cuts off in such a way that the attackers have to pass through it once to get to the orb, once to get through main, and then another time to get into ladder, which is the most important place to get out to as you're attacking. Additionally, if you have to fall off and play retake, it still cuts off the ladder corner, which is, again, invaluable for the retake. Additionally, teammates can push elbow with this wall, and enemies have to either push through the wall to take the fight, or if they don't push through, your team can pop flash through or anything like that and try to catch the enemy off guard. So when I'm using this default wall, I generally have my orb in my pocket, and it's for this reason. When I need to retake A, I can rotate through spawn, go into this corner, and do this lineup, and it lands exactly in the A main choke, which will greatly help your team for the retake. For this lineup, jam yourself in this corner, take out your orb and put the left tip of your orb indicator box to line up with the top of this triangle, and then run and then jump throw when the tip, that same tip of the box, hits this little sideways facing beam. Once you've thrown the orb, these are the mollies I usually use. The first one is really simple. All you have to do is stand at this corner, aim slightly above this roof, and then running left click, and it will bounce into bricks. This second molly is a little dangerous because you can get exposed to players playing backside or default, so make sure you clear it out before throwing the molly. But all you have to do to molly default is you can jump and then aim at kind of this second line to the left, and it will bounce off the wall and hit default. Now, I use the wall in B main, but many people use the orb instead. And the reason that the orb is more powerful on B main is because it has a thicker width, meaning that the enemy has to push through for a significant amount of time before they get out. This means that if you molly the orb, it's basically impassable, unlike the wall, which you can kind of run through. With the orb on B, you can save your wall for retaking A. But the reason that I usually don't like this setup is because it's kind of awkward to throw your wall. You have to either go through mid and clear out basically every single corner to make sure you don't get shot from the back as you place the wall, or already clear half of sight without any util from CT. It is good to have a variety of setups though, so I definitely would recommend throwing in the orb on B main here and there instead of just always doing the same setup. But when you do, make sure that you position the orb in such a way that it doesn't leave any space in front of the orb that your opponent can clear the corners. If there's no space in front of the orb, that means that it creates a 50-50 angle where your opponent has to either look at Cubby or ladder, and there could still be another player on pillar. If you do end up retaking through mid, there's two mollies that you should know. The first one is for pit. So if you go to pillar in bottom mid, line yourself up on this dot on the pillar, and then aim the right corner, bottom right corner of your fuel bar where this power line intersects with this wall. This will land in pit and force your opponent to either jump up and take the duel against you or fall off to another location. So it kind of allows you to get out of doors more easily. In this clip, I also aim up very slightly above where it intersects, and that makes it land on top of the lip rather than in pit. If you do manage to get in double doors and clear all the close angles, you can aim towards this strip of the wall and towards the little section of ivy, and then do a quick run throw and it'll land right back default. So the final setup I want to look at on B is playing around the KO ult. So the KO ult is often used on B because if you come out of the main choke point, it pretty much suppresses Viper no matter where you're playing on site. So what you can do is if you see the enemy team has KO ult up, is you can play all the way back towards half wall and set up so that you can molly the default plant and wait out to retake with your team. If you place a wall such that it cuts off all of back sight, it makes it really difficult for the other team to play there and makes the retake much easier. You can either keep your orb in your pocket, throw it on B main, or throw it on default and then bounce mollies off of this wall to try to delay the plant. I would just spend some time in a custom server bouncing mollies off the wall just to kind of get an idea of what bounce will give what result. Next, we're gonna look at the A site. So my default wall on the A site is very similar to the B site. It's also creating a pocket that the enemy has to clear. It cuts off the main choke, and it also cuts off shop in multiple locations, making it extremely difficult to push through. So the main problem with this wall, placing it pre-round, is that it creates a little gap towards the pocket on the right side of main, and you can kind of see through it as the attackers. So it's usually better if you walk forward a little bit at the start barrier and then put the wall down. But of course, this means that you're in exactly one place and you either have to play in the pocket or immediately fall back so you don't get spammed through the wall. So this wall has been used quite a bit in champions, and basically what it does, it creates a pocket in Cubby here on A site, and then it cuts off front default and through halls actually, so it provides some cover for anyone wanting to push up halls as well. So it's good to just mix up your setups once again, so I'd recommend switching between the normal default wall and this one when you're defending A. So for your orb with the A wall, you have two options. The first one is keeping it in your pocket for playing B retake, and the second option is using it on halls for a one-way. So if you go, the lineup I use is going to this fourth step up, the edge between the fourth and fifth step, and then you aim just below this ribbon on the pipe. It will bounce off and create a one-way. This one-way is really hard to push through and basically makes it so that you're stuck in halls if you're trying to do a hall split. So it is worth noting that if you stand all the way back in halls, you can kind of see under it to certain long angles, so just be aware for your teammates. So if you do decide to keep your orb in your pocket, this is the lineup I use to land B main from spawn. So line up with this pillar, just aim at this cloud and then do a running jump throw, and it should land right in the main choke. So as for retaking mollies on B, I don't really have anything set because most of the time, if you throw a lineup, you aren't in position to capitalize on it. So I'm usually just trying to bounce it off the walls. So again, just spend some time in a custom server practicing bouncing mollies so that you kind of know where they're gonna land depending on where you aim. So I think by now the default walls on both A and B for attack are pretty known. The A cuts off so that you only have to challenge the right side of the right pyramid, and the B wall cuts off by half wall. So we're gonna skip ahead to some more unique util. So one thing to note is with the A default wall, you can sometimes look over it from yellow. So this molly will hit the top of yellow and prevent any peeks over the A wall. So line yourself up on this white dot in front of the rock outside A main, and then you're just gonna take the crosshair of your snakebite indicator and put it on this corner of the rooftop, and it'll land perfectly on yellow. So from the same location, this molly will land in pit. Optic brought this out in champions, and this is especially good for an A split. It means that anyone can't play on the left side of the pyramids, and it's a lot freer take from mid. So again, you're on that same white dot, and then what you're gonna do is line up the very top tip of the snakebite indicator, put it in this corner, and then just do a normal left click. So you can throw this orb for tube control. This is the lineup I learned, I think it was from Nats a while ago. There may be easier lineups, but this is the one I know. So you line yourself up on this corner of the frontmost plank outside A main. And then you're gonna position below this right strip up above. And then in the middle of this horizontal strip. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna run at the start of the round and then jump through as soon as your crosshair hits the very bottom of that horizontal strip. So this is a simple orb for double doors. All you're gonna do is go into the spawn barrier and then aim right at the bottom left corner of this satellite dish where the ivy intersects, and then just do a simple left click and it'll land for doors preventing any peaks. Next, we have an orb lineup for top mid at nest, and this is gonna be from this corner right here, outside B main. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna look for these two rocks to the right of this flag, and then put the bottom left corner of your fuel bar in between those two rocks at the top of the crack, and then do a running throw. So you can use this wall if you want to split A from double doors and A main. So what you're gonna wanna do is get to the mid pillar and then just aim over towards yellow. And the goal is to be able to take space, everything up until the wall from both angles. You can either choose to have the wall go over stairs and yellow or cut off in front of it, but just be aware that no matter how you place the wall, there's gonna be angles that you can peek over it. So you're probably gonna be needing to hold them. As far as post-plant mollies, this is the most common one. You just jam yourself in this corner, look for the second leaf from the right that's jutting out, and then left click, and it will land right in front of the right pyramid. You can adjust it slightly by looking at this leaf instead, and this will land on the corner if the bombs are planted a little bit over to the side instead. Finally, we have B post-plant mollies, and I have 3 different lineups for you here because a lot of the time you want to be moving around in this area. So the first one is from up close. You can just aim at this brick on the very far left corner, and it will bounce off and land on default. The second option is going back to the same spot that you throw the mid orb from, by this little crate, and then you simply just look up at this leaf, and left click. So note that this lands a little bit over to the left side, and if you move your crosshair a little bit right, it lands further right. So you just can adjust it slightly based on what your setup looks like. Finally, from all the way back in spawn, line yourself up with this white line below that gray brick, and then use this corner as a marker and use the crosshair above your snake bite and jump through. This will land straight on default and cover pretty much any plant site. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. And if you have any questions or any requests for next videos, please just leave them in the comments.